Hi, this is Yvonne Galusha, and I'm making a short video for Information Systems Assignment 1. First, I'm picking up where we left off in lecture and showing you the completed ERD diagram. I'm not going to say a lot about it since we already covered that in lecture. There are 4 things I want to basically cover in this, and it's based on questions I've gotten from students. The first one is, what if you want a query where you're doing selection of just certain rows based on a criteria, which is the case here. We just want the males to display. So if you look at design view, the way that's accomplished, you designate the field value, which is an M for male, and you have to use that field in the query in order to select off of it. However, in this case, we don't want it to display, so you just uncheck that box. So that's not too hard to accomplish. Okay, point number 2. What about for the order report query where we want to get a calculated value? In this case, we're wanting to get the order total, taking into consideration price and quantity of every item on the order. Well, we do that with what's called a calculated field. It's not a field in any of the database tables. Instead, we basically create a new field. Notice here, I first type a label that will display in the report as well as the head of this query, and the colon designates the end of the label, and now I just proceed with the calculations. So in this case, price times quantity. And it will automatically go through each row and do that price times quantity and accomplish that summation for you. So if you run it again, you can see the calculation there. Okay, number 3 was questions on how to create a subform. And the way I suggest doing this, it might be slightly different from the book, is I start by creating a new form. So I'm just going to go to the form wizard. And we want the orders to be the top of the form, so I'm going to go to the orders table. Notice you can make forms off either query or tables. And I'm going to take all those fields, and I'm just going to do a columnar form. Very simple. And we'll go ahead and see that. It's done. Now down here in this part, that's where I want to show the particular items on an order. That requires a subform. It's almost like a form within a form. So if you've got this, you can go into Form Design view. You've got to make a place, even though we saw all this blank place when we were looking. Part of that, you see, was just the footer sitting up high. So now I'm spacing out a little bit so I have a little more room. And I go to that table that we want to be here, and I just take it and drag it in. And now it's going to automatically look for join fields, common fields. So I'm going to say yes, choose the one that's common, and say finish. And you can see the little orange square, so you can resize it. If you get the crosshairs like that, you can move the whole thing around. But it just depends on how much data, how large you want it to be. You can make those adjustments. And now, of course, you switch back to the regular view for form, and you can see you've accomplished that subform. I want to just mention here on controls, when you have this, you actually have a control in the subform to navigate through, and then you have these controls here to navigate, you see, through the various orders. So if we get an order with more items on it, there, like that, now you see you could use this to go down through those. So I just wanted to point that out, that you really have 2 navigations. All right, the last thing that I want to talk about is the report. So on the report, you've already got a query to use to make the report. So I'm going to go ahead on the Create tab and go ahead and start with the Report Wizard. And I'm going to use that query. So you remember the picture I drew in lecture, you can build reports directly from tables or from queries. So I want all of those items in this report. Next. Now, in order to get it to display where it's not constantly repeating the last name, street, etc., I need to form this kind of hierarchy. Now I'm going to go next. And I'm going to go ahead and these are the things I want included, all of those. But the reason I explicitly did this because I want to get my summary options here for quantity and price. And I want the detail as well as the summary. So I want to see each line item specifically. That's the detail. The summary would be, of course, the total, subtotal per order. All right. So at this point, this is just saying, you can see a little picture how you want it to display. I want it blocked so it's flat across, and portrait. And we'll say finish. Now this may look kind of crazy, but actually everything you need for that report is here. You just need to delete some of this extra stuff and then readjust this so the display is better. Now I mentioned this in lecture, but this is one reason you don't like to leave your field size 255, because then it spaces it all out and then it makes more work when you're getting to the report stage. I did not change this in advance because this is going to be more what yours is going to look like. You can still fix it, it's just more work. So let's get into starting to fix it. I won't do the whole thing perhaps on this video, but I'll show you a final result. So now we're in Report Design View. And if we look at just the report, you can see it's kind of hard to read, but both total, price, and quantity are there. And here's sums, but the sum is repeated 3 times because I had 3 fields: item, quantity, total, price. So I only want really one set of sum or subtotal is how I'm going to label it. So that's what I want to first get rid of. So if I come back in here to Design View, I'm going to select these and then push Delete. And I only need one set. So I'm leaving up here the sum and then those things that I want. But these down here, I don't need at all because I don't need them repeated. Same thing, this is the third one. Now I'm leaving that footer because, see, that is the entire grand total information down here. So I'm leaving that. Sometimes I'm going to space out and give me a little more room. And now this is where the page header, those are the field names, and then you have data values down here. So I'm going to do a little relining, and this is one of those things where it's a little hit and miss. Like, I don't think I need quite as big because I don't have any long city names. Notice if you get the crosshairs, you can drag the whole thing. If you want to be sure you keep alignment, you can use your arrow keys. And same thing there. I'm going to just drag this over. And like I said, this is one of those things where you have to kind of hit and miss. I'm going to make this a little smaller. And if it's not all displaying, you will lose points. So you want to carefully check what you end up with. Sometimes I can't tell which is which. So I want the quantity, so now I can see that. So I'll get it over here, and then I'll move the price back over there. Right now I'm just dealing with the headers. And sometimes I will move things around, or excuse me, go back to sum to see what I got. I'm sorry. Sometimes I can't talk when I'm working. I'll go back to the regular report view to see what I got so far. So far I think my spacing's pretty good here. Obviously, I still haven't done my subtotal area, so I need to work on that. This isn't taking me too long, so I'll continue here for a minute. Remember, these are the actual data values down here. So those, now this is what I need to still work on. So I'm going to spread that out so I can kind of see what I've got. So right now I'm getting, I think this is my sum on my quantity. And I think I have another sum here. Yes, there it is, on my currency, meaning subtotal for the order. So I probably want to get it where it's spaced a little closer to that set. And over here, I want the label closer, and I want to change that to say subtotal. And that's where the little small highlight dots will help you. I clicked once to get inside to be able to retype something different. And so now I'll see what it looks like again. Report view. So that's not looking too bad. I could have to work a little bit on making that smaller to align it. But the one thing I do want to talk about here is this changing this to currency, and then I still need to delete some of those values that were kind of hidden so that I can move this up so I don't have quite so much gap. So let me go back here to design again. A few things more. I'm not going to worry about the spacing. You can kind of get the idea. Just remember the crosshairs, you drag the whole object, a single arrow, then you can make it smaller or larger. But I do want to show you the currency. You select that object, meaning you get the whole thing in orange. You got to select out of it if you accidentally got inside of it. One click selects it, 2 clicks gets you inside. Now you want to right click and do properties. Once you've got property pane up, then you can choose the format. So in this case, that is also currency. So now I'll get that subtotal in currency. Now I still need to get rid of some of these things, and that's can be a little tricky, but usually you can find them if you're careful. And once you get all these taken care of, you can just drag these up, and once you get the rights there, you can get these all up so you don't have so much space in between. You want a little space, but maybe not so much. So let's see what we got. See, so this is looking pretty good now. We got currency. Still need to work on a little alignment. Leaving the little squares is fine, but you should have a nice alignment here. That quantity total should be underneath. The dollar should be pretty close underneath. Now, if it's not exact, that's fine, but get it lined up pretty good. The main reason you'll lose points is if you don't have the accurate information and you don't have it where all the information is visible. You know, like if, say, this box was too small, so it stopped at MON. We'll take off points for that. So you can scroll down and check everything before you're done and make sure everything looks good. Now notice this last thing on grand total, you're gonna have to do the same sort of thing that I've been doing already. I would suggest going back, I'll just show you. I would suggest moving this over so it's kind of in line with like the subtotal. And then of course this needs to be changed so you can see it, and you need to change it so it is currency as well. So this should give you a pretty good idea, report view, of what we are looking for on this report. And I will just show you what my final version looked like that I had done in preparation for this. I won't save that since I've already actually got it done. And here was my, oh, sorry, wrong one again. Here's order 1. Was the final one that you can see I created this using the same methodology that I just showed you, and you can see how I got everything lined up pretty good. So hopefully that will help